I didn't realize it at the time. That's when the primal mindset was born. That's when the primal mindset was born. That's when the primal mindset was born. This is the Primal Mindset podcast, and we are coming to you from Long Island, New York, available on Spotify, YouTube, and of course, NGBN.TV, a men's network focusing on mental health for the midlife man. I am your host, Chris Fontana, founder of Go Primal, a lifestyle and fitness brand, creator of the Primal Mindset Partnership, which is an 8-week course. I work with you one-on-one, learn to rise up, reset, be the best for the people that need you most. And if you use Rise Up 15, you will get a 15% discount, not only on the Primal Mindset Partnership, but the whole website. So if you head to goprimalusa.com, check it out. And before we get to today's show, I want to give a shout out to a few of the sponsors. We got Proof No More, premier marketplace for all non-alcoholic craft beverages consisting of non-alcoholic beers, wines, mocktails, spirits, mixes. Coming up on 5 years of sobriety, I enjoy a nice cold Lomza. It's alcohol-free lager-style beer. Check them out at proofnomore.com. Use code CF10, 10% off. Also, Eat Better Meals, food delivery service here on Long Island. Man, this is nutritious, delicious, packed with protein. I absolutely love this. The meals are already pre-made, no cooking involved. Very, very convenient. Check them out, eatbettermeals.com. Go Primal 25 gets you 25% off your first order. Go Primal 10% after that. So check them out. All right, let's get to today's show. We have fellow member of the NGBN team. She is an amazing person. She has an amazing outlook on life. It is infectious. That's why she's an amazing coach that helps men all over the world, simply known as Ruta. And you'll see why, because I cannot pronounce her last name. So here we go. All right, Ruta. And I'm going to try to attempt this. It's Stasiunaite.
Almost. Indeed. It is quite a tricky name. It's quite a tricky name. I have to say, honestly, I don't even expect people to even try. I just say Ruta, use the first name, forget about the last one. It's all fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. Yeah. And believe me, that was my first and only attempt on that one. So we're going with Ruta the rest of the way for definitely, for sure for that. So, but yeah, thank you for coming on. It's nice to actually kind of talk one-on-one a little bit. Just, we've seen each other in the NGBN meetings and everything, and that's how we kind of got connected. So shout out to Ian Hill for putting all of us together, and it's great to see like-minded individuals. And yeah, so I'm psyched to have you on, kind of talk one-on-one.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm also really excited about NGBN. And it's such an incredible group of individuals who are just all wanting to change the world for the better and helping men in life to become a better version of themselves and be happier and to really move from surviving, from suffering to thriving, to living the best life. And that's just such an incredible mission that we are on.
Yeah, absolutely. And how'd you get into it? Did Ian reach out to you, or did you see it somewhere else?
He reached out to me a while. Yeah, we've been in touch since April 2022, so it's been about a half a year or so.
Okay.
Ever since that time, it's just been such a upward trajectory to growth and bettering ourselves and supporting each other and just seeing all these people thriving and moving forward and growing their audiences and communities and having a bigger impact. It's fantastic.
Yeah. He saw, I don't exactly remember when, but he must have seen my story on LinkedIn and kind of reached out and said he's going to start this network, whatever, because at the time, I think, to be honest, I don't even know if I had my podcast yet. I think I said I was thinking about starting a podcast because I had no idea. I mean, when I started my brand, I had no idea I was going to have a podcast. That kind of made like a turn at some point. So if you told me 2 years ago you're going to have a podcast, I would have been like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. No way. Because I don't even like to talk. I mean, now is not bad, but I didn't really like to talk to people. I didn't really I was not an open person at all. So when COVID hit and I kind of was like, you know what, and kind of like how the whole purpose behind on the NGBN is like, I feel I don't think things necessarily happen for a reason. I think you just have to make meanings of the things that happen to you, and all the things that kind of happened to me and overcoming all my adversities. I'm like, I got to do something with it. So, and then when he kind of said, you thinking about having a podcast? And I said, yeah. And then he's like, when you get it up and running, we'll talk some more. And then he just kind of kept in touch with me, and I went from audio and then eventually to video. And yeah, it's been awesome since, especially like just meeting like-minded people like you, and just really the purpose behind it is, I think we all do have a lot of passion for that.
Absolutely. And this is so incredible that you don't even like talking to people very
No,
much.
well, like I said, now it's okay. But yeah, for a while, I was just like, man, you know what it is? I don't like attention on me, whether it's good or bad. So it was hard to really like open up and talk to people. And it was just, I learned to actually overcome that, and just be like, you know what, I learned when I first put my story out on social media, the amount of people that kind of reached out, and I was like, wow, like if you can help people, and then fuck it, I'll talk. I don't really care. Like, and now I'm at a point where I'm an open book. I'll tell anyone anything. And like, so it's definitely pretty crazy how it helped me, to be a part of something like that. It helped me open up and kind of mature as a person, really, and because I'm 43 now, and I'm still maturing actually as a man, which is crazy. But yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun with it.
That's incredible. And like you said, speaking up is healing you, it's helping you, but also it inspires other people also to speak up and to share their stories. And it inspires and motivates other people to not suffer in silence and in darkness, and to just be an open book and be okay with feeling vulnerable sometimes. And
Yeah.
that's just so freaking important. Have you actually come across Brene Brown's work on vulnerability?
No, I haven't.
It's one of the most important things that I have ever come across. She has this phenomenal TED talk, and I don't even know how many million of views she has on YouTube at the moment. But basically, her work is all about the fact that you are opening up, the fact that you are willing to be vulnerable in front of other people means that you are actually strong. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
basically the main idea is that most people think that being vulnerable means that you're weak, but actually that's the other way around, and it's backed by science. She's a researcher on this topic, and she keeps on talking about the fact that the more you open up, the more strong you are, because you are no longer afraid that you will be judged or misunderstood or unheard or unseen and stuff like that. So it's just such an incredible practice really to apply in daily life, and it's amazing that you did it with your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. And also too and then I made another pivot into like the mindset. I call it mindset partnership, but really, mindset coaching. Just again, putting stuff out on social media, and people that, I think it was the first person I used to work with. She kind of reached out to me and asked like, how do you stay so consistent with things? How do you do this? How do you do that? And then I was kind of like, all right, maybe I can kind of help people more of on like a one-on-one, and really like focus on doing that. And again, so really it's three aspects of my brand is apparel, which I have the hoodie and shirts and everything. That's how it really started. I didn't expect the podcast, and then now the mindset coaching. So yeah, it's like I said, it's been a lot of fun. You never know where it's gonna go. And going back to what you're talking about, like, yeah, I for years I suffered in silence with a lot of anxiety and depression, and really like some severe panic attacks for many years, where, and 300 pounds, just hated everything about myself, had no direction in life, didn't really care about anything. And I always kind of showed that I was a strong person, and really inside I felt weak. I had no confidence. I was just like, man, I don't know what the hell is going on. And it's funny you say that, because when I started, finally broke down and said I need help and showed vulnerability, the strong, like the strength that came out of me, like the confidence that I have today from it is just like, I just had, you go from that why me to like, try me, let's go. Like, and that's the kind of mentality I have now. And that's the mentality that I want to teach my boys. And so it's, like I said, it was the darkest days of my life, but I look back and I just say they were the best days of my life, because look where I am today and look at the mentality I have today. And I can teach that to other people.
That's incredible. And first of all, you are a great example to your kids, to your boys, like you say.
Thank
You're
you.
a leading example, you are a role model, you are a role father, but also at the same time, you are doing something that so many people don't dare to do. And I can so resonate with that because back in 2018, like almost 5 years ago now, I also hit my own rock bottom, and I was like, you know what, it's time to ask for help. It's time to reach out to a coach or a psychotherapist or somebody who is going to help me to get out of this place where I no longer want to be. And that one step, like some people ask, okay, so what do you actually need to do to change your life? Well, the first baby step is to reach out to someone, anyone,
Yeah.
just ask for help. And that already is the 50% that you need to go to your next level, to your next better life. And, if you make that really difficult, really, really scary decision, scary action, then half of the job is done. Half of the job of healing and becoming a better version of yourself, a happier version of yourself, is already done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember back when it wasn't even like a therapist so much, because my issue was I really thought that something was physically wrong with me. Like, I didn't know it was anxiety for a really long time. So I just thought something was physically, because if anyone who had a panic attack knows, like, you feel like you're having a heart attack, like you think you're dying. And like it was like every day for 10 years of that, like the mental torture that, and I just kind of settled and be like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna die young. My dad did, so I guess I'm gonna too. And then when I finally got to that point that you were talking about, I was like, I got to figure out what the hell, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this. And I actually, going to a medical doctor and just telling her what was going on. And then, she would send me to, obviously all the heart doctors and to take all the tests, but just walking out of her office that time, I felt like all this weight off me, because at least I finally told someone, because I was suffering in silence for so many years, the where I was just, no one had any idea. So even like you saying, like 50%, like it just felt like it was like such a weight off my shoulders. And then, went to the, further testing and showed, nothing was physically wrong with me. And that's when I was like, how the fuck can anxiety actually cause like physical, like I'm not going crazy. Like, I've had like, my heart felt like it was going to pound out of my chest. I had it where it was like beating so slow where I'm like, did it stop? I had like my arm go numb. I had like, just dizzy. Like, I never passed out, but I was just have like dizzy spells. There was just so much going on with me, and no one even knew. Like, I would just steady be working and doing stuff, and just like, but yeah, I mean, it was no way to live. And like I said, to be able to help anyone going through anything like that is something I feel like that's why I went through it. That's why I'm here, and that's where I'm going to go forward today with it. So, I know you mentioned back in 18 was your rock bottom. Is that when you kind of wanted to do the mindset coaching as well? Because I know you're part of it. I know you have like an interesting story. We'll definitely get into it, like kind of where you grew up and how you bounced around, and where you are today. So it's up to you if you want to start from the way beginning. So it's, it's up to you where you want to go with it.
Yeah. Well, my story goes like this. I was born in Soviet Union actually in 1989, and a couple of months later, Berlin Wall broke down, and basically Lithuania soon after became independent, which means that I grew up in a post-Soviet upbringing where there was all about, lack and scarcity and really tough conditions. And we as a family didn't really have much. And I remember myself wearing my older brother's clothes growing up and stuff like that. And, there was basically a lot of lack. Although in my family, there was also quite a bit of love. And I, as a girl, I really felt like my parents were doing the best they could. And yet it was all kind of based on expectations of what the society is expecting from young individuals. And it's all, you, as a young woman, I was like, okay, so I need to be in a relationship, I need to build a career, I need to get married, I need to have kids, and all of that was kind of supposed to happen in early 20s, pretty much.
Yeah.
And yet I had a job. I started, I was educated. I finished with master's in science, double degree in various universities across Europe. And I started my project manager's career in the corporate world, traveling Europe and so on and so forth. And I was also in a relationship for 5 years when I was living with this person. So on the paper, it looked like everything is just perfect. On a paper, on a surface, it looked like, oh, she is living the best life. She lives in Berlin or travels all across Europe, and she has a great boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. And, like everything is just wonderful. And yet I wasn't happy. I was doing something I didn't like doing. I was stressed. I resonate with your story. I also had anxiety. I was waking up with nightmares in the middle of the night with my heart pumping like hell. And I just realized that one day I was numbing everything that I did throughout the day. I would numb myself with food. I would numb myself with Netflix. I would numb myself with social media. I would numb myself with just being constantly on WhatsApp or other apps, keeping in touch with friends, and just basically not being in the present moment at all, because my present moment was very uncomfortable. And I felt like I was living a lie, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And so back in 2018, I realized that I felt like a single mother because my then boyfriend, he had some very severe health issues for a while. And fortunately or unfortunately, I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. What happened was that I was carrying the financial and emotional burden for about 3.5 years. So I had a corporate career which wasn't fulfilling, and at the same time in my personal life I felt like I was kind of like a single mother who has to take care of everything. And then I was like, wait a second, I'm just 25 or 6 years old and I already lived this misery. Like it doesn't make any sense. I don't want to live like this. And then when I realized that in February 2018, it was like a sign just dropped out of nowhere that somebody who I knew posted on Facebook at the time that she or her fellow student of psychology course in the university are looking for potential people who would be interested being like patients or clients. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. Please, please, please. And guess what happened? Right after that, within the first 2-3 months, I ended my 5-year relationship with my then boyfriend. I asked him to move back to the Netherlands. I then very soon after started just really understanding who I was, why I think the way I think, why I believe what I believe. All of the limiting beliefs that make me feel like I can't reach certain goals, or I can't create a certain lifestyle, or I can't, or I don't deserve, or I'm not worthy of an amazing relationship, or living with purpose in life. And so just so many things changed drastically after 2018 February that I can't even recognize myself, even though on a surface at the time people would say, oh, she's always, all this bubbly person and really approachable and likable and such a lovely, kind person, blah, blah, blah. But internally, I was so much suffering. Yeah. So that's pretty much my story.
Yeah. So what you said, actually, hold on one second, because my light fell. So I just have to fix it. It's all right. This will all be edited. Don't worry.
No problem.
Okay. All right, we're back. All right. So yeah, you mentioned, so what was it like a patient? What were they looking to do? Like a study on people? when you saw that
Well,
on Facebook?
yeah, it was like a final, how to say, like a final project that they needed to work with some individuals on their life journey and basically, in a sense, coach them in order to write their final paper, final
Hmm.
thesis, or some kind of a case study. And at the time, well, for me, it sounded like it's all psychology and psychotherapy. But now when I look back, they were just literally coaching me. And what we did, we would meet for about 1 hour once a week for 30 times, I think, or 25 times, so quite a bit.
Okay.
And each and every time they would just literally ask me questions. And that's what coaching is all about. It's
Yeah.
asking questions and trying to understand the perspective and challenge the thoughts and the beliefs and why do you think this is the case and stuff like that. And it was such a freaking awesome experience. I mean, I had like those 25 or 30 sessions within maybe 6 months,
Okay.
and then I had a break of half a year, and then I was like, listen, I need more, can we do more? And then
Yeah.
we had another 25 or 30 sessions again.
Nice. And I mean, yeah, and I'm assuming, is that what got you kind of into the coaching as well, after kind of going through all that?
Yeah, at some point I realized through this experience, I started realizing what I liked and what I didn't, what
Hmm.
I am passionate about and what I am not. And what I came to conclude was that, um, by the way, I worked as a project manager, and my education has absolutely zero to do with psychology, with
Yeah.
personal development, with any of this. My education was in business administration, entrepreneurship, innovation management, like things like that. And even real estate management, I don't even know why I studied that thing. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. For
okay,
shits
whatever.
and giggles, you just you just throw it in there.
Exactly. So, but then as I was going through that experience, I realized that back when I was a teenager, actually always wanted to know more about the way the mind works. And I
Hmm.
was curious about philosophy, and I wanted to study psychology. And I was considering seriously to study psychology. But at the time, I thought, you know what? There's so much stigma around psychology. Back in the days in Lithuania, a lot of people who reached out to psychologists, they were like, they were considered to be depressed. And I thought, you
Yeah.
know what? I don't want to work with people who are depressed, because I don't want all this heaviness in my life, and I want something lighter. And honestly, yet again, it was like a blessing and a curse, because I, throughout all these years, I gained life experience. I gained experience in how to live life, how to make decisions, how we actually feel all this pressure, and what kind of expectations we have from family, from friends, from society, from cultural background, so many different things. And then I returned back to where I came from, and I came from the interest and the passion to understand better how the mind works. And here I am.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you made it this way. And yeah, I think honestly, like, I'm not a therapist, or didn't go to school for anything. I just really, I think the best, not I shouldn't say the best, but for me, going through life experiences and kind of on the job training, I think is one of the better ways to, I think, um learn something. And because you just, if you go through it, like, you can be with that person when they're talking about it, you feel it. And that's why I call it, my mindset partnership, because I'll be I'm your partner. I'm there with you, and
Yeah,
I can empathize for, you, what you're going through. I got it. I've been there, and so, like, I'm gonna be with you the whole way. And it sounds like you pretty much have that same mindset, and being like, that's I to me, I think that's the best way to do it.
100%, 100%. And I know a few psychotherapists, and some are really incredible human beings who know what they're talking about, and they have that life experience. And some, I remember one person that I have met back like a long time ago, basically maybe 10 years ago or so. And she was like, yeah, like every single person has some kind of mental disorder. And basically she would pull out this massive book
Yeah.
which basically describes all the mental illnesses and everything that people struggle with. And she would just put people into boxes of like that book was literally describing every single human being in her world. And to me it just couldn't be more wrong,
Yeah.
because you can't put a person in a box. Sure, some disorders, some illnesses, sure, you might find some discrepancies and stuff like that, but really at the end of the day we are all human beings, and we can't be put in a box, in a frame, and then put a label that, okay, this is what's wrong with this person. Nothing is wrong with anybody.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And no one's the same. Every people are going to be different, and I think when you talk about coaching, I think a big part of it is and I know I found this to be true with like some of my clients is sometimes you just have to listen. They just need shit to get off their chest. And sometimes, like, just kind of going back to when I talked to the doctor and it felt like all this weight off me. And sometimes that's all they need. It's a little bit of that, and then you kind of give them some point. All right, we'll try this time. If you want to stay consistent with this is what I did. This is what and so a lot of it is just kind of listening and just figuring out where each person is different. And you can't. I mean, I know for me, I don't know if it's the same for you. Obviously, you can't teach like the same thing to every client. Like you kind of have to do different ways of figuring out different ways that's gonna resonate with them.
Exactly. And that what makes them comfortable. And a lot of people ask in the very beginning, before even starting to work together, like, oh, do you have some kind of like a framework, or do you have some kind of a fixed process that you go through? And I'm like, no, because you are not fixed, and you as an individual are not a framework. You are a very unique human being, and we will tailor the entire coaching process to your needs and to your specific situation. And what you just said, by the way, is very interesting, how you opened up to someone who was listening to you. And it happens so often that we find it difficult to open up to let's say a loved one, to a
Yeah, yeah.
friend, a partner, and yet it's so much easier to open up to someone who's a complete stranger.
Yeah, someone that you have no idea, and you might get, and like I think I was just like, fuck it, I don't care, man. I'm gonna tell her everything, and it was so much easier. And then eventually, once they figured out it was anxiety, and they said, maybe you should go talk to a therapist, and it was the same thing. Like I went in and I was just like, here it is. This is what's going on. Like I didn't give a shit. I mean, and I'm sure there's some better than others, but I remember this. She was an older woman. And this is going back, now like 13 years ago or so. Um, she was awesome. You can tell she's like non-judgmental and just like whatever I said. And she was just like, okay, so that's what you're feeling. That's no problem. It was just like, she really was there to listen. And then obviously give me some pointers or just talk and kind of almost be like, that's normal. You think that way. That's normal. It's happening to you because from what I was going through, it was probably the loneliest feeling in the world because you think it's just you, and
Yeah,
when they kind of put it that way and like, oh, a lot of people suffer from it. A lot of people like it, you almost feel normalized a little bit and you feel better. So it really is easier to open up to someone you don't know.
100%. And it's so interesting. I experience it all the time too, when my clients are like, am I normal? Does it make sense? I hope it's okay that I say this. I'm embarrassed to admit this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's literally nothing wrong with you. It's normal. You're not the only one. We live in a world of 8 billion people, and I can promise you that there are thousands and millions of other people who feel the same way
Yeah.
and who have experienced something very, very similar to you, and maybe exactly the same as you. So yeah, we need to normalize that, and normalize just that we all have this kind of dark room where we just clutter all the stuff that we think we shouldn't show and shouldn't share. But really, it's about time to open that door and to start looking at what's in that dark room, and what did you start hiding at some point, because there's really nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things that we're trying to do with the NGBN, is to show guys like, yo, it's normal to feel this way, man. It's all right. And I love it that we have, people up there who are strong-minded people, who people probably look at us and be like, oh my God, they're strong, this and that. Like, man, you have no idea. We've been through the same shit you did. If we can do it, you can do it, and I like that. That's kind of what we're preaching for the NGBN, and I'm looking forward to the virtual conference that we have on December 10th, 11 to 4 on Central Time. So and I know you're speaking on kind of like mindset and energy, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about that. Are you excited about this, or how do you feel?
I'm extremely excited about it, and I'm extremely excited to see all the people who are going to join us to
Yeah.
participate in the conference, because it's going to be so much very potent knowledge shared by people who walk their talk, and just helping other people, helping hopefully dozens and hundreds of men just recreate themselves
Yeah.
and live life that they knew they always wanted to live, in a healthy body with a healthy mind, creating healthy relationships, having a healthy career.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to some of the live events that we're gonna have that they're talking about. Hopefully you can get there. I know you're in Portugal. That's that where you live now, Portugal, right?
I am, yeah. But I honestly, I'm sure that it's gonna happen. So hopefully in 2023,
Yeah.
we are organizing some events, and I will do everything that I can to be there in person.
Why so why Portugal? How'd you land in Portugal?
Good question. It's I came to Portugal back in 2016 for the first time for a holiday, for a little road trip. And at the time, I lived in a city, and basically, I lived in cities for like 10 years, pretty much. Big cities. And so at the time, I lived in Berlin, which has like 4 million people. And I came to Portugal, and I realized that I don't want to live in a city anymore, first of all. And I also realized that I absolutely love raw nature, rough, raw nature, ocean that's so powerful, and like this power of the waves crashing all the time. It was just mind blowing to me. And I was standing, I remember, on the edge of the cliffs, like massive cliffs, and I just couldn't believe what I saw. And I said out loud, I am going to live here one day.
Yeah.
And I had zero clue how I was going to make it happen, because I had a job that, I can't just have that kind of job in the middle of nowhere in a nature like this. And I was in a relationship with someone who I probably wasn't even considering moving to a place like Portugal. So basically, all of the circumstances that I had at the time were just complete opposite of what I said out loud that I was going to live in Portugal. So it's the nature, it's the culture, it's the freedom, it's just my soul was like, this is where I want to be, and I want to have this as my base. I don't necessarily think that I will stay here forever, or that I will live here and just be kind of stuck in the middle of nowhere. It's more like I want to have a base in Portugal, which I'm establishing myself here. But my business and what I do is international, it's worldwide, and I want to travel the world. I want to go to the US, to Canada, to a lot of other places in the world, to also spread the word, to help gazillion of people, as many as possible. And yeah, Portugal is just going to be the place to keep on coming back to.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I love the water as well. I'm on Long Island. It's in New York, but it is an island. We have water all around us, and to me, water was always like, I always call it a serenity for me, because growing up, we had the best summers, and my grandparents had a house that was literally like right on the water, so like the summers were amazing here, and like that's the kind of childhood that I want to give my kids. And like when I always think about the water, it just automatically goes back to those awesome times I had. So it just gives me that amazing feeling. So like, I mean, I always say I'm never leaving Long Island anyway. I'm always gonna be here, and the pizza is too good in New York, so like I definitely don't want to move from here. But if I do, it's gonna be someplace where right on the water. Water's got to be near me. So I definitely I get what you're saying with that. So have you ever been to the U.S.?
No, not yet. I've traveled quite a bit in Europe, and
Hmm.
then I have been to Cuba, and I have been to Mexico for a very short period of time, but that's pretty much it.
Oh,
And definitely waiting and looking forward to travel more. During the pandemic, of course, it was like, okay, I'm kind of starting my business. I'm just establishing myself online, so it wasn't possible, and rightfully so. But now I feel like the time is coming, and
yeah.
I'm looking forward. Yeah.
Now look, now you're on the NGBN team, and now we're gonna have some meetings here in the U.S. So you're definitely gonna have to be a part of that. And then who knows? Maybe we'll go the other way as well. I've been to Italy once. I went shit, now it has to be close to 20 years ago. I went to Italy. I have some cousins there. So that was pretty cool to check out. Like we went to Sicily and Rome, which is like totally two opposite. Like you go to Sicily, is just like very old like country, and like I mean the food was awesome in Sicily, and then you go to Rome and it was like just city. Um, and obviously like the Coliseum there was awesome. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, other than that, I've never even really been off the East Coast in the United States. Like I've never been to California or out west or anything like that. So I'm actually looking forward to if we have some conferences out that way to get out there, man, just to kind of see the country, because there's so many different parts to it that I've never even experienced.
Yeah, and I mean, US and North America overall is just massive. You
Yeah.
know, if I look at Europe, Europe is like tiny compared to North
Yeah.
America, and you see all these cultures like cramped together somehow.
Yeah.
So there's so much to discover and experience in the US itself, right? And so I didn't know that you have Italian blood actually.
Yeah, yeah. My father's side, they're 100%. My great grandfather came over, and then my grandfather was born here, but his mother passed away giving birth to him. So my great grandfather sent my grandfather back to Italy so he can kind of establish a life here and everything. And he ended up doing really well. They said he ended up somehow owning a building and fixed it up himself and became a landlord. Made good money, and then and I think it was like the 20s, the Great Depression hit, and people just couldn't pay rent anymore. And like I heard stories like he saw people basically just jumping off the buildings and killing themselves because like it was like the big like market crash, like they just had no money and like people couldn't live, whatever. So but he slowly established himself again. And my grandfather came back over when he was like 10 or 11 years old, came back to the United States, and then yeah, and then grew up here, and was actually in the cigar business for a long time. um we have cigars named after us. They're called La Fontanas. My last name is Fontana. So yeah, he was like in the cigar business for a really long time, was well known. um so yeah, it's definitely a cool family history.
Wow, that's really cool. So do you speak any Italian? It's Italian.
I took some in college. This is going way back. I don't really remember any of it. At the time when I went to Italy, I was able to I was able to understand it, like when my cousins were talking to me. But like when I was trying to speak it, it wasn't very well. I mean, they got the gist of what I was saying, but yeah, that was a long time ago, and unfortunately, there was too much alcohol involved since then. So like I don't remember too good of things, and that's a whole another part of my story of alcoholism. And fortunately, I'm sober now. I've been sober 5 years, so but yeah, that was a big part of my story as well. Like and actually, when you're talking about kind of numbing yourself with food and Netflix and all that, it was same thing I did with alcohol and drugs. That was the only thing that helped my anxiety, and it was just to drink, and it was basically just to numb everything.
Mm.
And then you wake up and it would like be horrible anxiety with the hangovers and stuff like that. So it was yeah, it was just a cycle, but that's a whole nother thing we can get into another time. But um yeah, so that's pretty much my history on speaking Italian. Not too much.
Well, as long as you know how to
Yeah,
use
just
your
go like that and just scream and move your hands a lot and throw some curses in there and then mama fungu and then you're good. That's it.
exactly.
Yeah. So that's it. And I know because my wife is from Honduras, so I actually know more Spanish
Oh,
than Italian, which is very similar, Spanish and Italian. But
yeah,
again, same thing. Like I can understand Spanish. Like if we text each other, and like I can do it. But when they start talking, it's just like blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck they just said, So it's a little bit harder, but it's good because she speaks to my sons in Spanish and I'll speak to them in English. So, my I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, but they both understand. Like when she talks to them in Spanish, they understand what she's saying.
yeah.
They can't really, well, the 1-year-old doesn't really speak anyway, but the 3-year-old, he doesn't really speak it, but he definitely understands it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the younger kids are exposed to different languages, the easier they pick it up. And
Yeah.
yet, my brother lives in the UK, and they speak Lithuanian at home, and then the kids are watching TV, like animation movies and stuff like that, all in English, and goes to kindergarten and so on. And somehow they have this, I think they pick it up, they understand easier, but when it comes to expressing themselves,
Yeah.
somehow it becomes a bit more
Yeah.
challenging
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
too
I
many
see that.
languages in their head, and it's like, okay, how do I say it correctly? So
Yeah.
somehow it's kind of like, yeah, it's a good thing, and it's at the same time quite a challenge for them.
Yeah. I feel like it definitely is harder for them in the beginning, but I feel like now with my 3-year-old and I'll probably by the time he's 6, I guarantee he'll understand it easily and I bet you he'll be able to speak some of it too. So I think it's definitely a good thing. Like it might hinder them a little bit in the beginning. Um, because even my wife would say stuff and she's like, oh, I don't know why he's not like speaking yet. I'm like, well, because he hears 2 different languages, so he's trying to like compute everything like in 2 different languages. So he's probably being like, why does daddy talk that way, mommy talk that? All right, so maybe I'll talk to mommy that way and talk to dad. I'm sure there's a lot of shit going on in their heads where they're like, what the fuck is going on? Why is everyone talking all this weird shit? So, but yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing. So, and she continues to do it, so it's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, well, this was awesome. I'm so glad you came on. And where could people get a hold of you? Because you are an amazing person. Like just reading your posts, you're very insightful, very smart. So I'm sure you're able to help a lot of people. So where could people reach out if they're looking for some help?
The best place to find me is on my website, redefiningsuccess.co.uk. That's where you will find all the other information. And
Okay.
also feel free to find me on YouTube as Ruta Redefining Success. Subscribe to the channel. There are like hundreds of videos that I'm sharing content. It's an exciting journey to be
Yeah.
creating all this stuff and to keep on talking about what we believe in, and you are doing exactly the same thing, like showing up and sharing your thoughts and your insights and everything that you have learned in order to help other people to learn as well. So that's
Yeah.
exactly why I do this, and I'm really happy to help people when they reach out to me.
Nice. That's awesome. And yeah, so I'll definitely be seeing you through NGBN. Hopefully we will meet in person at some point. So yeah, thanks again for coming on, Ruta.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Keep a lookout every Tuesday for a new episode to drop. And if you liked what you heard from Ruta, give her a follow. Her links will be in the description. And to learn more about men's virtual conference that we will be a part of, save the date, January 7th, 2023. Tickets will officially go on sale December 5th. As always, trust your instincts and keep going.